Okay. All right. Go ahead and hit record, and then we can go ahead and get started. All right. So thank you guys for taking time out of your Sunday to join us for the leadership training that we do. For those of you guys who may or may not have been part of last week, we really started 3 weeks ago, because we did another one, took an Easter break, and then we're doing this one. So we started almost 3 weeks ago now, talking about the 5 levels of leadership from John C. Maxwell. And even though I'm really not going in depth too much about everything, because he does really go in depth in the book, and I suggest that you get it. It's a really, really good one. Super easy read. I think it's like $14 on Amazon. Really just kind of going over the levels of leadership so we can kind of talk about how we can grow to become level 4 and 5 leaders. Because ultimately that is kind of the goal. We talked the week before, so I'll keep saying last week, even though it wasn't last week, it was the week prior. So last week when we talked about level 1 leadership, which, to recap, is positional leadership. And positional leadership is something that's simply you are seen as the leader because you have a rank, you have a position, right? Like the manager isn't the manager. They didn't become the manager because you all voted and thought that they were the most qualified. They just got it, right? Same with maybe if you're in the military, or, even here, you're seen as a leader simply because you enrolled somebody, or you're a 4K or a 12K or an 80K or whatever the case might be. And so we definitely clarified that just because you are a rank, or just because you have a position, or just because you are fulfilling a role, it does not necessarily or inherently make you a leader. So I don't know if we can all kind of, everyone understand, like, in agreement with that. If you do disagree, I would love to hear why, not to like argue, but just to like gain a different perspective. And so we talked about positional leadership, right? You have it simply because you have a rank, or you have a position where it's like, oh, I'm awesome. I'm this. You have to listen to me. I know what I'm talking about because I am this, right? I am this position. I am this role. I am this rank. They've clarified that even though that is the beginning portion of leadership, it is not the end all be all, and that our job is to try to ascend to higher ranks. And so we're going to kind of talk about level 2 and 3 today. I'm going to kind of lump them together because I don't want to drag them out. I don't think it also is really worth mentioning a whole lot, because our goal is to get to level 4 and 5. I think we can all agree on that, right? So level 2, for those of you guys who are taking notes, level 2 leadership is based on what he says is permission. And this means that people have given you permission to lead them. So whether you started off as a position leader, or hold on, sorry, I have to mute people. Make sure you mute yourselves, guys. All right, hold on. There we go. You start off as a positional leader, and then hopefully you start seeing that people are really central to leadership. You are not a leader if no one is following, right? We kind of talked about that the week prior, where it's like a parent that's walking in the grocery store and you're just doing your thing, and you're not looking back to see how the kids are doing or where they're at. And because you're so focused on what you need to do, you're not looking back, and then they're off in like aisle 6 and you're way over here, right? Like, you lose them if you're not constantly checking to see where they are. And so that's kind of level 2 leadership, is permission, right? So people are following you because they gave you permission to lead them. It doesn't mean that they're like, oh, great leader, right? It doesn't mean that you're there yet. It doesn't mean that they're following you because they admire you or whatever. They're just kind of like, we approve of your position as our leader, and we are willing to allow you to lead us, but we have to figure it out. Like, right? They're kind of like, okay, you're our 4K. We are accepting of that. We understand that you've done this prior to us. We'll give you a chance. That's basically what it means. That's basically what level 2 is. Your people are giving you a chance to lead them. They're giving you permission. And so what he kind of talks about is it is giving more attention to the people and the relationships, because they are what is driving this level of leadership for you. Because as long as they're giving you permission, you continue to exist as a leader. Okay, so the people are really central to this. If you're a positional leader, you don't need the people's approval. Heck, you don't even need people. You just need a position. So level 2 leadership is all about permission, because it is people centered. And so leadership permission makes the world more enjoyable for everybody in that working environment, because again, it's based on this common agreement. It increases the energy level, and it opens up channels of communication. Hopefully, if you're a good leader, it's opening up channels of communication, meaning you should be communicating with them. You should be asking for feedback. And then he also talks about how it focuses on the value of each person. If you're a really good leader, you will really kind of dive into your relationship with each person to find out what their strengths are. So you can, again, this is a skill for later leadership, but it's cultivated here in level 2. So this is where it's crucial. Is in level 2, your job is to build relationships with individuals, understand what their strengths are so that you can utilize those strengths for the team as a whole. So if you're not in your team, if you are not building relationships with them individually, if you are not doing one-to-one coaching calls or Zooms or chats or whatever, you don't know what their strengths are, and you don't know how to use those strengths to make the tribe better, to make the team better. So you might have people that are really good speakers, that are really good teachers, that are really good creators, that are really good thinkers, that are really good collaborators, like all of these things, but you wouldn't know that because you're not in the day-to-day grind with your people. You might be in the day-to-day grind with your business, and we'll talk about that in level 3 leadership in a second, but you are not in the grind with your people. You are not placing the emphasis on understanding the person and what they bring to the table. And that's where he also talks about this kind of leadership nurtures trust. This is where trust starts. Trust doesn't start in positional leadership. Trust starts here because trust is interpersonal. It says, I trust you as a person, you're trusting me as a person, or I'm giving you an opportunity to be trusted. But this is where trust starts. It says, when the crunch comes, people cling to those they know they can trust, those who are not detached, but those who are involved. If your team feels like you are detached, you are not in this level 2. Okay. So if you're not in this level 2 and your team feels like you're detached, guess where you are? You're a level 1 leader. And we have a lot of mid to high level leaders on here who aren't on here, but on the team, who their team does feel detached from them. And they're thinking their way up here, like, I'm this fantastic leader. Because again, positional is this rank. I'm way up here. But they're thinking positionally. I'm a 200K, I'm an 80K, I'm a level millionaire, I'm this. That's a positional leadership way of thinking. But if you have that way of thinking, your team's going to feel detached from you, which means you're a level 1. You think you're way up here, but you're not. Okay. And it really decreases your effectiveness. I know we talked about this in when we first brought up the idea of talking about this. I showed you that grid where the higher up you go in levels of leadership, the more effective you are and the less energy and time you're putting out. Again, because you're leaning into the skills of your people. You're sharing the burden, if you will. You're not the person who is having to come up with all the ideas, with all the momentum, with all the hope, with all the tough. You're not the only person. You're leaning into each other's strengths. It says the downside of this is that they can appear too soft to people. They can give too much permission for things that shouldn't exist to exist, right? Because they fear if they're putting their foot down that somehow it's squelching the person, and they're like, I can't risk doing that. So they really tiptoe around. And then it says leading by permission can be frustrating for high achievers. I don't know how many high achievers we have on here. If you are very goal driven and you have a very red personality, this level of leadership that you do have to grow through, you can't just skip it. You have to grow through it, can be really frustrating because you want to be a performer. You want to be level 3. Okay. You want to be a performer. And you're like, people are getting in the way of my performance. So F them, I'm going to start performing. That's what a lot of high achievers, very red personalities can tend to do. People, their feelings, their emotions, their frustrations, their hesitations, they're getting in the way of my goals. So whatever, Sally, you can catch up when you decide like giving a shit, right? And then you can catch me over here crushing my goals, right? That can happen a lot of times. So you can feel very frustrated. If you're the person who gets easily walked on, you can feel taken advantage of. And also people who really struggle with trust, like if you're a person who says, I have trust issues, you struggle at this level because it's all about having openness and vulnerability with your team. So if you can't have, first of all, you can't have trust without vulnerability, right? Like the old trust falls that people used to do, right? How do you know if you can trust them unless you actually take the leap, unless you actually fall, right? You can't be like, oh, I can just imagine that if I fell, you guys would totally get me. So I totally trust you guys. No, you only figure it out when you actually are vulnerable and you're like, here we go. Hopefully they catch me, is when you're vulnerable enough to give them the chance to prove they are trustworthy and vice versa. So you can only get as much trust as you are willing to be vulnerable, as you are willing to be raw and open. And that's very scary for a lot of people. And then it also says that permission leadership is very difficult for people who are not naturally likable. There are people who are naturally likable and those who aren't, okay? If you have a fairly off-putting personality, a very dry sense of humor, the RBF, if you're just not very approachable, whatever it is, right? You're not like Barbie, okay? You're not like, oh my God, hi, right? Like, you might not be likable or not as easily likable. This level can be hard because it's dependent on people liking you. It's dependent on people liking you, knowing you, and trusting you. So if you're not naturally likable, you do have to cultivate some of those skills. And this is where a lot of people will then say, well, I'm not going to fake it. And they just want to like bypass it. And they're just like, well, if I have to fake it to like totally be this kind of leader, like that is just not me. It's like, well, if we are in a very people-centered business and you are a leader, which is inherently a very people-centered thing, people need to like you, okay, in some way. They don't have to be in love with you. They don't have to feel like they're your best friend, but they do have to like you, right? There were lots of people that like I didn't like on a personal level, but I was like okay with them as like a coworker or a boss or whatever, right? Like I'm not going home every night to go braid their hair and paint our toenails, but I like them. I like them enough, right? Like, and that's okay. But you do have to be likable, okay? You as the leader, people might come to you in a position of trust and have to say something that's going to put them in a very vulnerable position, and they have to know that you're trustworthy. Well, in order for them to even approach you, you do have to be likable. And then permissional leadership forces you to deal with the whole person. So in the clinical world where I came from, we talked about whole person therapy. So it was approaching it from a whole person perspective, meaning it's not just their trauma, it's not just their past, it's not just their mental illness, it's not just their struggle, it's the whole person. So when we are coming together as a team, we can't really just isolate Rachel the promoter, Florencia the promoter, Christian the promoter, Cassidy the promoter, right? We can't do that. They are still people who have families, who have fears, who have goals, who have drives, who have traumas, all this stuff. It doesn't mean that we have to become their therapist. It doesn't mean that we have to like make it 90% personal life, 10% business, right? It doesn't matter. But it does mean that you can't not take that into account. You can't totally isolate it and just be like, well, you should this, and you could be doing that, right? They're a whole person. They're still a mom, they're still a wife, they're still all these things. So you have to approach it as kind of this whole person perspective. He talks a lot about other things like connecting with yourself before trying to connect with others, meaning you have to practice self-awareness. If you are not self-aware, you cannot effectively connect with other people. If you think like, wow, I'm so astute, I know what's going on, I'm this, I'm that, and other people look at you like, what? Oh no, honey. No. Right? Like, you are not very self-aware. How also to know if you're self-aware is if you look at feedback as criticism instead of a way to improve. If you take it personally, then you're not very self-aware. If I say, hey, Emily, are you open for some feedback? And I give her some feedback and she goes and cries in her room, or she's like, Courtney hates me. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like, if you take it personally, or if you get mad, if you're like, who's this girl think she is? Like, come up in here telling me I need to improve this way, that way. Like, if you take it personally, you're not very self-aware. So definitely work on connecting with yourself so that you can connect better with others. He goes on and on about like practicing the golden rule, being very people oriented. You have to be the chief encourager in your team. What else he talk about? Because I want to kind of move into level 3 as well. So for those of you guys who were a part of our prior leadership meetings or who got the book as well, he does tie in the levels of like the laws of leadership, which is why I think it's such a great tie-in. So he talks about this is very, very, very crucial. This stage right here is crucial for you to cultivate the law of influence, the law of addition, the law of solid ground, and the law of magnetism, because it's all about people. It's all about drawing people to you. It's all about trust is the foundation of leadership. It's about the power of influence, and it's about adding value by serving others. So that's kind of where you cultivate these right here. Now we're moving into level 3, because I want to try to be decent with time and then maybe even open it up for questions or remarks or anything like that. Is level 3 is production, where leadership is based on what you can do and what you can produce. This one says that leadership production gives credibility to the leader, okay, not to the team. And not there's anything wrong with that, but that production gives credibility to the leader. Why? Because it's that whole like monkey see, monkey do, right? Or how can I tell you guys to go get customers if I can't go get customers? How can I tell you to go close sales if I can't close sales? How can I tell you to go do these things if I haven't gone, right? That's the travel agent versus travel guide, right? Is kind of telling somebody what to do, even though they're like, oh yeah, you should go to Costa Rica and go ziplining and go here. You're like, have you ever been to Costa Rica? They're like, no, but I hear it's great. It's like, that's not giving me lots of like, I don't feel very secure going there now. So production gives credibility to the leader. And we've talked about this before, where you can be an incredible promoter. You can be a bomb ass producer. You can sell, you can have a PPA of 500. You can be on every leaderboard, right? All those things, but it does not make you a good leader. They are different. They are two horses of different colors, right? So great leaders are often great producers, but great producers are not always great leaders. So it's not mutually exclusive. Leadership production models and sets standards for others visually, meaning watch me, then do it. Okay. I have in here in my notes section, I was like, when I'm reading, I'm like always taking notes, or like when thoughts come to me, I'm like, oh, I need to write these down. So anyways, as a good coach says, this is how you do it. And they like show you, right? We all know that coaches with like the whiteboards, or now they're tablets, but right. Coaches are like, okay, X's and O's and arrows, and like do this. Okay. Like you go over there. That's what a good coach can do. But a great coach can be like, you understand? No, you don't understand. Okay, watch me. And they go do it. Okay. Because they can do it or they've done it before. So when it says in here, leadership production models and sets the standard for others visually. So you can only show people how to do it when you've been somewhere, so you can create a map and then show people this is where you go. When you're here, you'll run into a waterfall. So don't go that way. Go around it. How do I know? Because I've been there. You're going to go this way, right? So it is vital for being a good leader. Now, does it mean you have to be the top? Does it mean that you have to have a PPA of 100? No, you just have to have PPA. You just have to know how to close the deal. You have to just know how to do things. Give out minis before, have success with promos. It doesn't mean to be the best producer to be the best leader. You just have to know how to produce, okay? Leadership production brings clarity and reality to the vision, meaning you're not just kind of like, look at all the things we can do, guys. You're like, it's possible because it's been done. I've done it, or we've done it together. Like it's a reality, like it's possible. Okay. It's not just some like dream or fantasy. Production solves problems and production creates momentum. Okay. We talked about this, I think in the very first, when I was introducing the book, we talked about, and I think I did, I don't know, but we talked about momentum makers, momentum breakers, and momentum takers. So you need to identify one, which one you are, and two, which one your people are, right? If you don't really have tons of downline, maybe you can identify who they are in like your team. If you do have downline, you really, really need to figure out who these people are. Okay. So number one, momentum makers. I think that's clear. I think we all know what that means. It means they're showing up, they're doing the do, they're getting the get, like they're doing the stuff. They're not just on Zooms and learning, they're like doing things. They're not just soaking up all the knowledge. They're like taking that knowledge and putting it to use. Okay. They're doing the stuff. Those are momentum makers. They are, how do you create momentum? Well, you're out there creating it. Okay. Think of it like if this was like a big, stone that we're all pushing up a mountain, the momentum makers are who? The people who are pushing it. Okay. Those are the momentum makers. You actually have to be doing the stuff. So you're pushing it. Okay. You don't have to be the strongest. You're there. You're doing your best. Okay. You can be 90 pounds soaking wet, like, like pushing it. Okay. And someone out there can be hulking it, like, got it. But you're out there pushing. Okay. You're creating the momentum. Then there are momentum breakers. Momentum breakers are people who, again, if you're thinking about that model of we're all pushing a stone up a mountain, momentum makers are pushing it. Momentum breakers are the ones that are like, I need to take a break. Like this is like really hard. And they're like taking a seat. What happens? Every time a person takes a break, it's harder for the momentum makers to push it, isn't it? Okay, it's harder. It's harder to make it up there because there's less people committed to the team vision, which is let's get this up the hill. Okay, so they're breaking momentum. They're taking it away, or they're making basically no progress. So it can look like one of two ways. How to know if you're a momentum breaker, if you got momentum breakers on the team or whatever, is you're either making no progress, like you make some, you lose some, you make some, you lose some, you're not really gaining. Right? You take 4 steps forward, 4 steps back, or you are losing momentum. Like you're going down the hill. The rock is like rolling over you. Like you're losing momentum. You need to, John C. Maxwell in here talks about the only way to deal with momentum breakers is through training and coaching. You give them an opportunity to train and coach them, right? So if you think about it like a momentum breaker, you're like, hey, you don't seem as strong as you could be. Let's train and make you stronger so that you don't need to take as many breaks. Okay. Like if we're going back to the pushing the rock up the hill, training and coaching, they will then go to one of two ways. They will become a momentum maker, or they will go off to the third category, which is momentum taker. Momentum takers are the people who are on the other side of the rock, either pushing it against you or putting up obstacles so you can't push it forward. They are part of the reason why you are not gaining momentum. These are people who are starting drama among team members, who are being super negative in chats. These are people who are whatever. You can probably think of people when I say this, right? You probably know who the momentum takers are on your team, okay? You probably know. They're clear and evident. They don't hide. John talks about him, me and John, we're on like that level, okay? John talks about cutting them out of the team. Like, bye. And I know that we have like this weird, I don't want to say fear, but this hesitation to doing that because of the nature of our business. You didn't hire them, so you can't fire them, right? So we're like, well, we can't like kick them off the team. I beg to differ. I'm probably the wrong person to talk to because I've done that. So, but it's when you consider the health of the team versus that one person. When you're the leader, you kind of have to do that. You have to make the tough choice to say, listen, we're all pushing this up the hill. And if you're going to sit on the other side and put obstacles in the way to make it harder for us, you clearly don't have the same vision and you don't need to be here. So goodbye. Because the longer you keep them around, the more momentum you will lose and the more exhaustion you will gain. So it's your choice. Keep them around for what benefit? Because you're too scared to confront them. Well, being too scared to confront them leads to less momentum and more exhaustion. So kind of your choice. All right. Okay, then he talks about the downside of production is being productive can make you think you're a leader when you're not. Hold on, I'm going to repeat that. So the downside of production can be being productive can often make you think you're a leader when you're not. Just because you have a killer PPA does not mean you are a leader. Just because you can close all the deals under the sun doesn't mean you are a leader. Just because you are a Lavelle 200K or millionaire or 40K or whatever does not mean you're a leader, okay? Just gonna let that marinate for a second. Because in sales, it can often get misconstrued because especially when we think of like Lavelle can only see what the back office reflects. We know that. That's okay. They can't see when you wake up. They can't see the one-to-one coaching calls you're doing. They can't see how you're planning your day. They can't see all these things, right? They can only see what's in the back office. What's in the back office? Numbers and results of productivity. So those are often the things that are like, wow, here's this award. Wow, here's this record. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to definitely put that out. There's nothing wrong with that. And first of all, people who can produce, like, they're badasses, okay? But what I'm trying to say is that you can see how when you're getting the shout outs and you're getting this recognition and you're getting these banners and you're on leaderboards and you're crushing this and you're crushing that, it's easy to think like, wow, look at me go, being such a leader. Right? Just because you're in front doesn't mean you're the leader, right? We talked about that positional. Just because you're in front doesn't mean you're the leader, because being a leader is looking back and looking at who is following. Just because you're in front doesn't mean people are following you. They can be over here, they can be over there, you can be a gaggle of geese, I don't care, like, doesn't matter, okay? Productive leaders feel a heavy weight of responsibility for results. So they often feel like in order for the team to get results, they have to be the one to do it. right? Because they have those trust issues where they can't rely on the team to create results, and they think that they're the only ones that are capable of doing that. And so they're just so busy running their own personal businesses that they're not looking at what their team's doing, right? That same concept of the mom in the grocery store or the dad in the grocery store who's like, oh, gotta get my list done, gotta do all the grocery shopping. And they're like getting all their stuff done. They haven't looked back at little Johnny, who was back in, way over there. Like they lost him because they were not looking back. They were not checking in. They're not saying, hey, stay with me. Because they're just so focused on their own goal because they're the only ones that feel like they can execute. Production leadership requires making difficult decisions. And oftentimes they don't make them because they want to avoid them, or they're too fearful, or they don't have time. Why? Because they're so busy focused on getting the results. They're so busy getting the numbers. They're so busy selling the samples. They're so busy getting the PPA that they can't see this horrible team dynamic. They can't see that the team is losing momentum. They can't see all of these things. So it's difficult for them to make decisions because they're like, well, I really don't have all the information that I need. Well, no, duh, because you're not looking at it. You're not taking it all in. They have major tunnel vision. So it's often difficult for them to make decisions. Production leadership demands continual attention to level 2. And so what that means is it demands constant attention on people, but people impede production to them. People who are stuck in level 3, people impede production, so they can't be bothered with them. People come with problems, okay? And production gets me paid. So I'm gonna be over here. That's kind of their thought process. However, as we'll learn in level 4 and 5 leadership, you see that instead of it being this like triangle where you're forced to choose, it's more like this circle where it's like you pay attention to people and their problems and then you help solve them, and then you have better production, so you end up getting paid. And because everyone's getting paid, they have less problems and everyone's able to produce, and you can see where it goes, right? So it talks about then some of the things that they're really good at and how to lean into those in order to bring your level 1, 2, and 3 leadership skills into level 4 and 5, is understanding how your personal giftedness contributes to the vision. This is where it's so vital to say, what am I good at? Now, how can I teach that to other people? How am I closing all these sales? Okay, let me figure that out, and then let me teach my team how to close sales. Okay, how am I reaching out and building a great audience? Okay, that's awesome. How do I teach my team to do that? Understand your personal giftedness and how it contributes to the vision. So influencing people, connecting with people, communicating with people, and creating resources to help people are vital in this stage. For those, I see note takers, so let me repeat that for the note takers, is influencing people, connecting with people, communicating with people, and then creating resources to help people. When you do this, you help cast a vision for what needs to be accomplished. Because you've been there before and you know what it feels like to win, you can reverse engineer it and say, I won, or we won, or whatever. Here's how we did it. Let's recreate it. You know, a lot of like football teams go back to, they rewatch their games over and over and over and over. They watch other teams who win. They watch their games over and over. Why? Because they study how they did it. They reverse engineer it, and then they cast that vision for the overall victory by understanding how they did it. What plays did they run? What made the play so successful? Oh, hold on. Let's meet people. You begin to develop your people into a team, right? You start to see how, wow, Rachel's really good at this, and while Tristan's really good at that, and Brittany's really good at this, and well, Emily, she can do this. And what you do is you start building a team, you start building a tribe. And we've talked about that before, tribal leadership. Well, think about it. If you were starting from scratch, like in caveman days, right? Or y'all got into a shipwreck and washed ashore and needed to like restart civilization, what would you do? You'd start seeing what people, the leader, start seeing what people are really good at. And then they create a tribe. You create a tribe when it's like all the needs are filled. You're really good at doing, you can start fires. Okay, that's your job. Your job is to like start fires because you're really good at that. Your job is to forage for berries because you seem to know exactly where those are. Your job is to cook because that's your strength. Your job is to do this, right? So you take people and you take their strengths, and when you do that, you inherently create a team. Because one, they all feel a part of something. And two, they are all contributing to the same vision that you're casting for them. Does that make sense to people? Did that? Okay, just want to make sure. They talk about, again, the applicable laws, right? I think he goes into like 6 or 7, so I won't go into all of those. They prioritize the things that yield high returns. So producers are really, really good at identifying what tasks are most important. Because again, they know where they've been and they know how to win. So they know the best route. I don't, it depends on where you're from in the country, I guess. So they know the best way, okay? They know the best way to go. So someone who's never been there is probably gonna be like, well, you can go here and there, and well, maybe we go circle back. Okay, and we're gonna, right? They might get you there eventually, but someone who's been there knows how to get you from point A to point B flat, like the quickest way. So they are the most efficient. So they prioritize the activities that yield the highest return. So you get around a high achiever who wins a lot, and you're like, well, if we just did that, and they're going to be like, no, that's a waste of time. Don't focus on that. Focus on this. Okay. No, doesn't matter. Don't be doing downward dog and yoga and whatever. You need to be going to run a whole mile. You need to be lifting 50 pounds a day, right? They're like, that doesn't matter right now. You're losing focus. Focus on what matters. Okay. They prioritize the things that have the best return. They have to be willing and ready to be a change agent. And again, that means momentum provides the energy needed for change. So again, this is talking how to transition from level 3 to level 4. And being a change agent is crucial because, as we'll learn in level 4 leadership, that's what it's all about. It's all about kind of inspiring transformation, and not just transformation as a whole, but within individuals, because you're really, really leaning into this influential space you're creating for yourself to begin changing people, not just the team, but are you making people better? Are you making Alicia a better version of herself? Are you making Mikkel a better version of herself? Because you're also making the team better. That's kind of what they're talking about, is be willing and ready to become a change agent, because that's vital in level 4. Because you really need to, again, inspire this through vision, values, relationship, attitude, and communication. For note takers, vision, values, relationships, attitude, and communication. And then lastly, it says they never lose sight of the fact that results are your goal. So leaders who understand that production is key also know that results are the ultimate goal, especially in a business or whatever it is. Okay. If you have a personal trainer, they're driven by getting you results. Results can be anything. It can be, do you feel more confident? It can be, do you fit in those pants? It can be, Are you off your medication, right? Whatever the goal is, but they get you results. You can't start with a personal trainer and end 8 weeks with a personal trainer feeling the exact same and go, wow, you're so awesome. You're so good at this. No, they're not. Okay. So they're results driven. We are results driven. Are you, and this is why, again, why it's really important to know your people. So I'm going to use an example, Kristen. So Kristen comes in here and I'm doing like my onboarding interview with her and she tells me, I just want to be more confident. Okay. At the end of a year, if she's not 4K, but she's going live every single day and she's feeling the best she's ever felt in years, have we helped her get results? Absolutely. Because that's what she came in here wanting. She didn't come in here saying she wanted to leave her job. She didn't come in here saying that she wanted to make $1 million. She didn't come in here saying that she wanted to drive a BMW. Now, granted, do those change over time? Yeah. But results are you getting people results? Results are what you measure everything by. So also know what result you want out of this. What results do you want? We have a lot of people, especially in my team. I know we have other teams on here, especially in my team, who are very, very, very community driven. They're not driven necessarily by impact. They're not necessarily driven by income. They are driven by community. So I think a lot of leaders who are very impact or income driven can get frustrated with people who are community driven because their results and their goals aren't the same as ours. But that's when you're approaching it as a team whole. Well, can you imagine if you start diving deep into knowing these people on your team, if you get them personal results with whatever that is for them, right? To be more confident, to do this, to do whatever it is. Can you imagine when they feel that way, what they will then be able to do, how their vision will then change? People who maybe don't feel as confident, don't find purpose in things, don't whatever, have you guys ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Right? What talks about like, you need your basic thing, like you need shelter and food, and then up here you need social relationship, right? So when people are coming in here who are community driven, that tells me that their needs down here, their basic needs aren't met. And in the psychology world, they always told us, if you're counseling a homeless, hungry person, you can't talk to them about being a more self-actualized version of themselves because they're cold and hungry. You need to meet those needs first. You need to feed them and help them find shelter. Like that is number one. Then we can talk about all this other stuff. So if you have people who come in here for community, that kind of tells me, and this isn't always the case, but that kind of tells me that there are needs that need to be met first because their vision is, I don't want to say limited, but again, like someone who's cold and hungry, their vision is like, I need meaning. I need connection. I need these things first. So can you imagine as a level 2 leader who's really diving in with these people one-on-one and knowing what their goal is, helping them get those personal results? I can't imagine a person who finds meaning and purpose in this community, who is more confident, who feels a part of something, wouldn't then have a different vision of, oh, now I can achieve this because now I feel worthy of it. Now I can go for this rank because I feel like I'm capable of it. Okay. So results are results. They're not always in the back office. They're not always given a badge. But you need to know what your people want for results first. You as a person, everyone on here listening, what results do you want? This is why we talk about goals. Goals are so important. You need to have personal goals. Like, what do you want out of this right now? Short term, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. What do you want out of this? For some of you, it might be more confidence. It might be more purpose and self-worth. It might be more meaning. It might be those things. Then that's the first goal. Why are you not getting 4K, 12K, whatever you? Probably because you're so busy trying to chase a badge that you're skipping these other goals that you want or need that have skills specific to what you need. It kind of reminds me of, have you guys ever done like an escape room before? So in an escape room, if you don't find the clues in order, you can confuse yourself, because like if you skip over some, you miss this clue that's vital to unlocking this clue that will make this clue easier to understand, right? So it's kind of like that's how you're using your goals, is it's like you're missing these checkpoints. So you're like, I want 4K because that's what I'm told I need. I want 4K because I want a badge and I want to feel significance, right? Whatever it is. You're like bypassing it and you're trying to unlock this door, but your key is over here. So when you're not opening the door, you're like, dang it, guess this door's not for me. No, the key is over here. You forgot the key. You just go back, get the key, then go back to the door, okay? So am I making sense to people? Okay, I just want to make sure. Because I feel like, and I'll wrap it up, but I definitely feel like that's really vital as leaders. That is one of our jobs. That is one of our responsibilities, is when we are coaching and mentoring people, is to say, what do you want out of this? And be understanding and accepting of the fact that it won't always be something that reflects in the back office at first. But those results are still worthwhile when it comes to giving attention to, because when those people feel empowered and confident and capable, they're more likely to do all the things that get results. They're more likely to approach people and do their RCMs. They're more likely to do locals. They are more likely to go live. They are more likely to do all these things that then build momentum in their business, okay, that then are things that are reflected in the back office. So knowing results, and I know in here production and results, we tend to think like, oh, like PPA and 12K and all, that's what we're thinking. And I say those are equally as important, but we also can't lose focus on the fact that these other things are important too. And that results are results. Like going back to that example I used with the fitness trainer. If someone comes in and just says, I want to feel more confident when I, walk into a bar, right? I want to feel more confident, and they work out and they're like, woohoo, they're getting their groove back. And maybe they've only lost like 1 pound, but they go in and they own the bar and there's like, I'm it and shit. I'm awesome. Like, that's a result. That's what they wanted. You got it. Good job. Like, you delivered the goods. Okay. Now they're going to be like, oh, honey, I felt so confident. I walked up into Abercrombie and I just said, okay, I'm going to fit my booty in those jeans. So now we need to lose the 5 pounds. Okay. So let's do it. So it all builds onto one another. So results are still important no matter what they are. And it is our job as leaders to understand and connect with people so we know what their results are, the results that they want. When you meet the individual's needs, you meet the team's needs, right? Bringing it all full circle, that's what he's really talked about, is it's not about you, it's about them. And inherently, when you make it about them, you make it about the team. And if you're a good leader, you're part of the team. So it is kind of about you. It's about everybody. So it's about Florentine, about Rachel, and about Cassie, and about Mary. It's all of us. But again, it'll be hard to see that if you're just thinking like, how is this going to impact my future? And I want it to do this for me. And I want to make this much in my bank account, right? I always talk about it, people over profit. When you prioritize people over the profit you make, you inherently make more profit in the end. But people who focus on profit will always lose the people. And when you lose the people, you lose the profit. So choose what you want now, even though it might be slower growing, but it's always worth it because it's a stronger, more solid foundation. I'd open it up for questions, but I've already kept you guys on here for almost an hour. So, however, these books are they're really in depth, and I feel like I'm doing such a disservice when I'm just like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Good job, guys. I know you can go ahead and read it on your own, and I really do encourage you to do that, because as much as I talk on here, I still don't even skim the surface of what he really talks about in here. So I really encourage you to get. I see Courtney's got it. I see Rachel's got it. Probably some other people who don't have their cameras on. Also, Courtney, I see you with your camera on. Good job shouting you out. So anyway, thank you guys so much for taking time out on your Sunday to be here with me and talk a little bit more about leadership. Hope you guys, as always, find it really, really valuable. Next week, I'll lump level 4 and level 5 in, and then we'll be done. And I always do this ahead of time for my people who are like me. We'll be doing another book. So I'll let you know now what it is. And it's the 17 indispensable laws of teamwork. I think it's John's got a lot of laws, okay? He's like Moses up in here with his commandments, okay? Man's got a lot of laws. Anyway, I think it's 17 laws of indisputable teamwork. And when I tell y'all this book, I like it more than 21 laws, sorry, but I really, really like it. So Christian's face is like, really? More than 21 laws? Okay. Yeah, by the way, there's 74 books in his entire collection. So, and if you don't think I already almost have them all, think again. Okay. We won't do them all, but anyway, it's really good. So for those of you guys who want to get ahead, order the book so it's here and ready when we start it. I will go ahead and let you, can you put it in the chats? Yes. Hold on, I was going to respond to just you. But I don't know why. There. Yeah, I'm starting to turn into like Belle, like Beauty and the Beast, like with the library. And she's like looking at it like, wow, but I'm giving myself the library. So, oh, thank you so much, Christian, for putting it in there. But yes, it is really, really, really good. Like I said, we'll be finishing up level 4 and 5 in here, and then we will be transitioning into the 17 laws of teamwork. I really do feel like they work really well in this order that we've done them, because I feel like 21 laws really works on you as the person. 5 levels of leadership helps you see how to apply that as a leader. And then the teamwork one really focuses on, now that you're a leader, how do you help? How do you do that? How do you bring everybody together? How do you really incorporate everything all in one? How do you make people better versions of themselves, and so on and so on? So really, really good. I love you guys. Thanks so much for hopping on. For those of your people who missed it, it is on our YouTube channel. So you can go ahead and send them the replay as well. But as always, I love you guys, and we'll catch you on Mindset Monday tomorrow.